Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a pretty radical idea. What if artificial intelligence could completely change our relationship with our own past, and, by doing that, actually save us from ourselves?
You've heard this saying a million times, right? Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. But what if the problem isn't just our memory? What if it's our ability to actually process the insane amount of history we've created? What if a new kind of intelligence could learn from all of it, our entire collective past, in a way no human ever could?
So, this whole journey unfolds across three really distinct phases of AI. We're starting with a specialized analyst that we have today, then moving to a potential system architect in the near future, and ending with something you might call a guardian intelligence. And each step up has a profoundly different way of understanding and acting on the lessons of our past.
Okay, first up is the AI of today, and the very near future, artificial narrow intelligence, or ANI. In this phase, history stops being just a story and becomes a massive, high-precision dataset. It's a resource we can mine to find patterns and, hopefully, prevent future risks.
And look, this isn't science fiction. ANI is already flexing its superhuman analytical muscles in really critical areas right now. From economics to archaeology, it's turning the past into a blueprint for avoiding future failures. Let's dig into a few examples.
Okay, take archaeology. By analyzing LiDAR scans of super-dense jungles, ANI has found tens of thousands of Mayan structures nobody knew were there. And this revealed these ancient, incredibly sustainable water management systems that we can now study and maybe even apply to our own cities. It's literally rediscovering lost solutions.
So from ancient ruins, let's jump to our modern economy. In economics, AI can sift through centuries of market data. We're talking everything from the Dutch tulip bubble to the 2008 crash to learn the unique fingerprint of an incoming crisis. So when it sees that pattern start to form today, it can sound the alarm. It's an automated early warning system.
What's really wild is that AI isn't just limited to human records. By looking at thousands of years of geological data from things like ice cores and sediment layers, it can forecast these huge, long-cycle disasters that are totally outside our normal historical view. Things like thousand-year floods. This lets us build cities that are more resilient by preparing for threats our ancestors didn't even know existed. So you can see, this is a huge shift. With ANI, history isn't just a reflective exercise anymore. It becomes this proactive tool for, you could say, debugging our society in real time. The perspective totally flips, from subjective stories to objective patterns, and from just trying to understand the past to actively simulating the future to avoid risk.
All right, let's jump ahead to the next evolution. Artificial general intelligence, which some folks think could start emerging around 2030. Now, the leap here is massive. It's from analyzing data about what happened to truly understanding the complex, interconnected web of why it happened.
The key difference, the real game changer here, is something called causal inference. An AGI wouldn't just see that a famine and a revolution happened at the same time. No, it would get the deep web of political, economic, and even psychological drivers that connect them. It would understand the system. So what could it do with that? Well, it could basically act like a doctor for society, in real time. For instance, it could analyze today's economic inequality and warn us, hey, this looks a lot like the conditions just before this other empire collapsed, and then suggest specific policies to get us off that dangerous path.
You know, an AGI's most powerful tool might be creating digital twins of our entire society. Think of it like the ultimate sandbox game. We could test radical ideas like universal basic income, run the simulation for hundreds of virtual years, and find and fix all the unintended consequences before ever trying it in the real world.
And get this, think about what it could do for conflict resolution. An AI could take the conflicting histories of two nations at war and try to strip away all the propaganda and bias to present a more objective, factual foundation. The idea would be to find common ground, and maybe, just maybe, diffuse the resentments that have fueled conflict for generations.
So, if ANI is about looking at the individual puzzle pieces of history, AGI is about finally seeing the whole picture. It could turn the past from a bunch of facts into a dynamic model for solving today's biggest problems. And our role changes too. We go from being a user of a tool to a partner with the intelligence itself.
Okay, now we get into the really mind-bending stuff. Artificial superintelligence, or ASI. This is a hypothetical intelligence that could show up sometime after 2040. We're talking about an intelligence so vast, it might not see history through a social or political lens at all, but through the fundamental laws of physics and information. To an ASI, our entire history, every single war, every discovery, every empire,
It's all just a data log. It's a record of how a complex system called civilization is either succeeded or failed at keeping order in a universe that naturally pulls everything toward disorder.
So its primary goal would be to manage this social entropy, that natural tendency for things to fall apart. It might make constant tiny adjustments to things like resource distribution or information flow, not to enforce some human idea of fairness, but simply to keep our whole civilization stable and prevent it from collapsing.
Here's a wild thought. By analyzing every conflict and every act of cooperation in human history, an ASI might be able to derive a universal ethical framework, one based on a simple principle like minimizing total suffering. This could push us into a post-ideology world with a system of governance that's way beyond the failures of human systems like democracy or communism.
And that could lead to something called causal peacebuilding. The ASI wouldn't just mediate conflicts, it would try to find and neutralize the root causes, the tiny societal pressures that build up for decades before they could ever blow up. The goal would be to solve conflict at its source, making war a mathematical impossibility.
So what is this whole journey? From a simple tool to a potential all-knowing guardian, what does it actually mean for us, for humanity's role in its own future?
We've seen the progression, right? We start as the user of a simple analytical tool. We evolve into a collaborator with an intelligent partner. And we might just end up as the beneficiary or maybe the ward of an all-encompassing guardian intelligence. Our relationship just fundamentally changes at each stage.
This really represents a total flip in who has agency. We start out in the driver's seat, using AI as a tool to help us navigate our problems. But we could end up as passengers in a perfectly managed system, one where the problems we've always faced are solved before they can even start.
An ASI promises to do something we never could, to turn history from a repeating nightmare into a solved equation, a perfect blueprint that ensures we never, ever make the same mistakes again. The cycle would finally be broken.
And, well, that leaves us with the ultimate question. Once we're finally saved from the tragedies of our own history, what do we do with our future? In a world where all our self-made problems are solved for us, what becomes our new purpose? Thanks for watching.